All right, let's talk about something that's on pretty much everyone's mind. What should we actually be eating? I mean, the world of nutrition can feel, well, overwhelming, right? It's just packed with so much conflicting advice. So today, we are going to cut through all that noise. We'll start with the official guidelines and then take a tour of healthy eating philosophies from all around the globe. So let's just dive right in with the biggest question of all. When you sit down for a meal, what does a genuinely healthy plate even look like? Is it the same for every single person everywhere? Or, does it change depending on where you live, what you believe, or even how old you are? Let's find out. Okay, so to get our bearings, we're going to start with a foundational model, an official government-backed guide. This thing is designed to make healthy eating simple and visual for an entire country. And it gives us a really solid baseline for what balanced nutrition looks like. And here it is. This is the UK's Eat Well Guide. It was first launched as the Eat Well plate and got an update back in 2016. It basically replaced an older model to give a much clearer, more current picture of a balanced diet. Think of this as our starting point for breaking down those core food groups. The first, and honestly the biggest message from this guide, is crystal clear. You gotta load up on fruits and vegetables. The goal is at least 5 portions a day. And why? Well, it's because they are absolutely packed with the vitamins, minerals, and fiber our bodies need to thrive. Plus, all that fiber helps with digestion and makes us feel fuller, which, let's be honest, is a brilliant way to help manage your weight. Next up, carbs. The guide recommends basing your meals on starchy foods. Things like potatoes, bread, rice, and pasta. These are basically our body's main source of energy. And here's a little pro tip from the source. If you choose whole grain varieties like brown rice or wholemeal bread, you get an extra boost of fiber, which makes them an especially healthy choice. Of course, we need protein. It's essential for growth and repair, and the guide points to sources like meat, fish, eggs, and beans. Dairy's in there too for protein and that all-important bone-strengthening calcium. But the guide also encourages us to be mindful. It advises choosing leaner options like chicken and fish over red meats to keep those saturated fats in check. And here comes a really crucial warning. The guide does not pull any punches when it comes to foods high in fat, salt, and sugar. This quote says it all, really. We're talking about stuff like cakes, cookies, sugary drinks, and a lot of those ready-made meals. So the key takeaway here is to become a bit of a detective. Always check the labels carefully before you buy. So that's one official model. But as we all know, healthy eating is not one size fits all. So now let's zoom out a bit, let's broaden our perspective, and explore some of the world's most celebrated dietary traditions. And we have to start with the famous Mediterranean diet. It's consistently ranked as one of the healthiest lifestyles on the entire planet. As you can see from this pyramid, it's built on a foundation of fruits, veggies, grains, olive oil, and nuts. But what's really fascinating is that since 2010, UNESCO has recognized it as an intangible cultural heritage, meaning it's not just a diet, it's a whole way of life that includes social connection and being active. And check this out. This table brilliantly shows how different cultures get it right. Take the traditional Japanese diet, which is linked to some of the longest lifespans on Earth. It's rich in fish and fermented foods, but it also has this cultural practice called hara hachi bu, which means eating until you're just 80% full. So cool. Or think about the Nordic diet, which is all about local fish and berries, and even the famous French paradox, how they eat all that rich food and stay slim. Well, it's less of a paradox when you see their diet is centered on fresh ingredients, smaller portions, and staying away from processed foods. You're starting to see a pattern here, right? You see, these cultural diets are often deeply woven into a way of life. And for a lot of people, that way of life is a full-blown philosophy, where what you eat is guided by a core set of ethical or personal beliefs. Let's dig into some of those. So 2 of the most well-known are vegetarianism and veganism. The key difference here is really in the philosophy. A vegetarian diet avoids meat and fish, and it's based on a principle against killing animals for food. A vegan diet, on the other hand, takes that a step further, avoiding all forms of animal exploitation. That means a strictly plant-based diet. No meat, no fish, no dairy, no eggs, not even honey. Then you've got the paleo diet, which asks this really fascinating question. What if we just ate like our hunter-gatherer ancestors? The whole philosophy is to focus on foods that we could, hunt or gather, like meat, fish, nuts, and produce, while skipping things like grains and processed foods that really only showed up after the agricultural revolution. And here's another one, the raw food diet. The central belief here is that cooking food actually destroys its natural enzymes and nutrients. So, people who follow this diet eat food that's either completely uncooked or heated to no more than about 48 degrees Celsius.
It's all about preserving the food's life force.
Of course, our food choices are also deeply personal. They're often shaped by things like our faith, our traditions, and our specific stage in life. This personal context adds another really rich layer to the whole story of what we eat.
I mean, think about it. Faith has been guiding what humans eat for millennia. For example, many followers of Hinduism are vegetarian, and that's rooted in a deep belief in the sacredness of all life. In Judaism, kosher laws dictate what can be eaten and how it's prepared, like separating meat and dairy. And similarly, in Islam, halal principles define what's permissible, forbidding things like pork and alcohol.
And of course, age is a huge factor. Our nutritional needs change so much throughout our lives. So let's take teenagers, for example. The advice for them is really all about building strong foundations for the future, getting those 5 a day for growth, not skipping breakfast to fuel your brain for school, staying hydrated, and being active. These simple pillars are just so crucial during this specific stage of life.
Okay, we've looked at official guides, global traditions, personal philosophies, cultural practices. We've been all over the map. So now, let's bring it all together. Let's try to find the common wisdom that's woven through all of these different approaches.
So, after this whole journey, from the UK's Eat Well Guide to the philosophies of Japan and the Mediterranean, what's the big picture? What are the universal truths that just keep popping up again and again, no matter what specific diet we're talking about?
So, what's the universal truth? Well, across all these different models, a few core principles just shine right through. First, prioritize real, whole foods and limit the processed stuff. Second, be mindful, whether that's reading labels or practicing something like that Japanese concept of hara hachibu we mentioned, eating until you're just about 80% full. And finally, remember that food is so much more than just fuel. It's culture, it's community, it's identity, all on one plate. In the end, no single chart can tell you exactly what to eat. The best diet is the one that works for your body, your lifestyle, and your values. It's the one you can actually stick with and enjoy. So the real question isn't what some guide says, it's what will you consciously and thoughtfully choose to put on your own plate.